Morning. Once again, I thank you for bearing with us through this whole process. The tragic events that unfolded yesterday. We've lost deputies before. Everyone is precious. Everyone is in their own way unique. This is hard hitting, to say the least. I said yesterday, the men and women in the different agencies you see here, and so many that aren't represented. Law enforcement turned out in such terrific numbers for us yesterday. You looked around, and it's a brotherhood that is unmatched in anything I've experienced. That we needed help, and at our time of need, the response was overwhelming. And to include in that the assistance from our county executive, Mr. Glassman, his staff, the emergency operations, and the fire agencies here in Harford County. I'm going to go through and unfortunately announce the names of our lost deputies. You heard from Ms. Kaler that we'll have photos for you a little later. The first deputy that was lost yesterday was Pat Daly, Senior Deputy Patrick Daly. He's a 30-year veteran of this agency, was assigned to court services, and he is a former Marine, a veteran who has served his country. Pat is survived by his girlfriend, his mother, and his two sons. The second deputy that was lost yesterday is Senior Deputy Mark Logston, a 16-year member of this office who has also served this country as well as the citizens of Harford County as a member of the United States Army. Mark is survived by his wife, 3 children, and his parents. We have been in constant contact with the family as they begin to make the arrangements, and as those arrangements become more clear in the coming days, we will be sure to share them. Just a little more about the incident yesterday. As I said yesterday, deputies were called to respond to the Panera Bread located in Abingdon, and Deputy Daly was the first to arrive on the scene. There's some miscommunication out there, and social media. It's so much good out of social media, but there's also so much bad. As Pat entered the restaurant, he was looking for this specific individual. He went to the back of the restaurant where the individual was located, began a discussion with the subject, who almost immediately produced a handgun and shot him in the head. Another deputy, quickly responding almost immediately, began to render first aid to Pat. The suspect fled the restaurant, the establishment. Thankfully, no one else in that establishment was hurt or injured or targeted. Individual witnesses did provide an excellent direction of travel, and responding deputies and fellow law enforcement agencies established a quick perimeter. Mark Logston, who was one of the initial deputies to arrive on the scene, he began an approach to the parking lot where the suspect was discovered in a car, and shots came from the vehicle in Mark's direction, striking him. It does appear, the investigation still has a long way to go. It does appear that Mark was able to return fire, at least 3 rounds, we believe. Other deputies who were coming in from a different direction opened fire on the suspect and killed him. And as I said yesterday, we did recover a handgun, a semi-automatic handgun, from in the vehicle with the suspect. I'd like to clarify a statement that I said yesterday, and it got kind of out of context as far as this individual targeting police officers. It's our belief that because he knew there was a warrant out for his arrest, and what the ultimate outcome of that encounter was going to be would have been his arrest, that is why he took the action against the police officer. We don't believe he laid in wait to ambush, but certainly the officer was targeted from the extent that he didn't want to be apprehended and that was the course of action he decided to take. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Sheriff, can you elaborate on the motive? You said that you anticipated, that Evans may have anticipated this is how it would go down, but can you tell us any more about the motive and what we know about him to include his past and warrant in Florida?
Well, we know there's, and again, the investigation has a long way to go. We know there was an incident here. We are still trying to get the details around what that incident was years back. And that is still all under investigation. We know that there was an incident in October of 2015 in Florida that resulted in an arrest warrant for obstructing police and resisting arrest. That was issued on October 28th of 2015. So apparently somewhere around that time, he left the state of Florida and relocated back up here, and where he was living, where he was staying, all that is still under investigation.
What is his connection to that car? I know he ran back to that car, it appears, and was back in it. Some of the elderly folks nearby were wondering whether he was living in it. It had snow on top. It obviously been there since the snowstorm. What do we know about that car, and had he been living in the car?
We suspect that that's a possibility, but again, the investigation has a long way to go. The car is his. That was his vehicle. He owned the car.
Sheriff, what do we know about the nature of what your officers were coming up against when they arrived at the scene? What did they know about this particular individual?
We believe the initial deputy did understand that there was possibly a warrant for a subject that was in there. The subject apparently frequented that place nearly every day, from what we're told, and was known to the staff there. But we believe the initial deputy knew that there was an outstanding warrant, but what the details and the background on the suspect were, that was probably not. And again, I have to caution everything that we have a long way to go with the investigation. That probably was, a lot of the details were not known to the deputy, obviously what we have taken the last 24 hours to find out.
Sheriff, can you elaborate on how your department was notified that this man was in Abington?
That's still under investigation. It did come from a citizen who reached out to the Emergency Operations Center by telephone, and the deputy was dispatched to the scene. So who made the call and all that is still up in investigative details that we're not going to release at this point.
Sheriff, it's our understanding that the information that was provided to the Sheriff's Department yesterday before the response to the Panera Bread was that the individual in question, who turned out to be David Evans, was someone who had committed an act of violence in Harford County some 17 years prior, and that the individual who was now reporting it, who was the ex-wife, was very concerned that he was back in town, and that she presented quite a bit of detailed information about his background.
I've heard that, but I've also heard a lot of things that aren't the case. So all of that detail is still under investigation, and if indeed that is how it all played out, we still have to nail it down to be 100% sure.
Sheriff, what do we know about the warrant? Was there a warrant for assaulting a police officer that this guy, David, was facing?
There was a warrant out of the state of Florida that was issued on October 28th, 15 for obstructing police and resisting arrest. I have not seen, I believe investigators have a copy of the investigative report now from Florida, but I have not seen that myself.
What about the warrant from Harford County?
It was a circuit court writ, a body attachment, and that was for failing to pay attorney fees related to some case earlier. I think it was a 1996 body attachment. So it was related to some case by 1996 or earlier.
Was your gun legal and registered to the suspect?
The gun was legally purchased by the suspect in Pennsylvania in 1993. The location where he purchased it is no longer in business. Many aspects of whether he should have been prohibited at this point and in possession are still part of the investigation.
Did he have any other weapons, Sheriff, that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm familiar with.
Sure. Can you, just a sidebar here, can you talk about
Is this the first time this has happened in more than a century? Is that true? And can you clarify that and how shocking this is that not only one officer would be fatally shot, but two in one day? And maybe talk more about these officers and what their roles were in their daily jobs?
It's absolutely devastating. You know, to the people who wear this uniform, there are no words. These men are heroes. I don't know what else to say in detail about them. They serve this county. They serve this country faithfully and honorably, and they lost their lives doing what they love to do.
And was this in, does it go back to the 1800s?
1899, this office lost a deputy to a gunshot wound. We've had unfortunately, we've lost other deputies in the line of duty since then, car accidents, some medical issues, but nothing to this. Everyone's tragic, and I don't want to minimize any of our earlier losses, certainly, but this one has hit us hard.
Sheriff, I understand one of the deputies was also a volunteer firefighter. Could you tell me which ones were John?
Absolutely. Pat Daly was and thank you, that was actually in my notes. Pat Daly is a 30-year life member of the Joppa Magnolia Fire Company, one of the agencies that responded to the scene, and they've been there with us.
What does that say to you about, here's a deputy who, you know, would put in 8, 10, 12-hour days, and then instead of going home, goes to the fire station and serves the public again?
You can't question either deputy's dedication to the community. And there are so many here in this office, and you know, those who are local here know that I come from a different background, from a different uniform. And this agency is deeply, deeply embedded into the Harford County community. Something that I'm not used to, something that I have the utmost respect and admiration for the men and women who do just that.
Sheriff, just to go back to the circumstances that preceded the shooting, and I know it's very early, as you said, is part of what you're looking at that of how the initial call, request for service was handled, dispatched, at the scene handled? Should we have gone with the uniform? Should we have done something else? Is that all part of the review of this?
No, the criminal investigation will be something separate, but there's nothing that we do in law enforcement, in the fire service, in the military service, that is not the subject of an after action. And we will certainly look at every aspect of what led to this tragedy from all angles and see where we can, if there's anything that we can do better than we did. We certainly never want to stand here again.
You know, obviously you knew both of them. Can you give us maybe a little bit more of a personal look at the two of them? I mean, we know their statistics, their background a little bit, but about them personally, each one of them.
Well, Pat, and I made reference to Pat yesterday when I was a young trooper, just beginning my career here in Harford County. That's where I first met Pat, and he was starting with this with the Harford County Sheriff's Office about the same time. So Pat and I go back 30 years. Pat was a Marine Corps. Both Pat and Mark served on our honor guard. I think there's a picture now on our Facebook page showing them at an event folding a flag. And again, back to the service of the agency, and they were proud to wear this uniform. They were proud to be a part of this, as their families were proud to have them part of it. So Pat and I go back. Mark, an avid golfer. I haven't known Mark as long, but certainly a dedicated employee to the office. Both Mark was a union member with our Deputy Sheriff's Union, and we have Vice President Chris Gibbons with us from the Deputy Sheriff's Union this morning. Pat was also a member, but Mark was a board member and looking out for the best interest of not only the citizens of Harford County, but the fellow men and women who wear this uniform.
And leaving behind children.
Yes, both gentlemen are leaving behind families and children.
Did Mark also serve on the Development Advisory Committee?
I am not 100% sure, not that I'm familiar with. We can find out for you.
I recognize his name.
Okay.
Sheriff Gaylor, how are the families and what are you
doing for them?
We have a deputy assigned. We have 3 deputies assigned to the 2 families, and they can either liaison officer, any of the liaison officers can reach out to any of the command staff members, including me. And I know the county executive has the same open door at this time. Anything at all they need, we're going to make sure the families get what they need through the coming weeks, for the years ahead as well, but especially through the next days and coming weeks as we plan their services.
Do you have the ages of the family members, the children in the family? Young folks.
I don't have it here with me, and I'm looking for Christy to see if that's something we're going to release, but if we are, I'll get it to you after the press conference.
Sheriff, was there any, I'd read where Deputy Daly may have been nearing retirement. Could you comment on that?
Certainly 30 years, he had passed retirement eligibility at 25, so he was here because he loved doing this job. I've heard some rumors since yesterday that he had actually talked to some close friends about perhaps retiring later this year. And a lot of people talking when it comes time. I can tell you when it came time to retire from my first career, you're not so sure it's the day you want to leave. So I would have hoped Pat would have stayed with us as many years as he wanted to.
Sheriff, as a result of, from a national perspective, law enforcement officers being put under a microscope, could you tell the nation what it means for officers to serve and protect?
Well, I read something, and again, back to social media, and just the public response, I should point out, it's just simply overwhelming. The phone calls, the texts, the messages to our Facebook page, to our emails, to every person in this room, it's just simply been overwhelming, and but very, very much appreciated. This is a job like no other. You know, the men and women who come out to serve the public are willing. It doesn't mean we should expect them to, but they're willing to put their life on the line to keep their community safe. And I feel, and this is my opinion, that we have a negative view of the profession out there, an unfair negative view of the profession out there today. We shouldn't expect our law enforcement officers to give their life. It should be, it's wonderful enough that they're willing to, but I think some people want to take some tools away from us and make the profession less safe than it is today.
Sheriff, I know you described his previous record, which doesn't necessarily outline a career criminal here, but was there any other phone calls, any other complaints, any other evidence that this might lead to this type of level of violence?
Well, I think certainly if the call taker or anyone within the sheriff's office or the deputy, either deputy had known more of the detail, they probably would have taken a more tactical response. But this is the type of response that is just 100% normal in law enforcement around the country every single day. Action's faster than reaction, and if somebody wants to do something and they are properly equipped to do so, as in Deputy Daly's case, there was no stopping it. There was nothing he could have done to prevent that.
Sheriff, is there anything that you, in the investigation, are looking for, seeking from the public?
Well, certainly, if there's any witnesses that we haven't interviewed, and the investigative team was out there, I think, till around midnight last night, and we, as I said, the restaurant was full. We interviewed every single person who was in there. If someone saw something, we certainly want to talk to them. If someone knows something about this individual or any of the circumstances around it, we would certainly want to talk to them. I think the investigators have done a great job to this point, but leave no stone unturned. If there's something else out there that someone thinks they can bring to the table for us, please do.
And could I just follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
You said, the work your investigators have been doing. Could you just speak to the pride you must feel on behalf of all of your team for the quick response?
Oh, and it goes beyond. I come from a much bigger organization. This is a big sheriff's office, but I come from the state police in a prior career. And I will say, and I've said it this morning several times, when this first started, I wondered how we were going to be able to handle the loss of 2 deputies. At least at that point, both were severely wounded, and keep our people. And to the credit of the men and women behind me, they did. They stepped up. They're heartbroken. So with that said, we have our allied agencies. We have them offering support, out anything at all we need. And I got to give credit to the sheriff's office. They handled it. They handled the entire incident, the shooting. State police, transportation authority police, the locals, they responded with us. They were there on scene. And once the initial incident was over, the deputies picked up and did their job with heavy hearts.
And are the deputies still, how are they coping about just as they go about today and just doing their day-to-day duties? How are they coping?
They're serving the citizens of Harford County with, like I said, with heavy hearts. And I know I had trouble sleeping last night. I'm sure everybody in this room couldn't go to sleep with the thoughts of what happened yesterday. So they are all professionals, and we have a mission, and they're accomplishing the mission.
Sure. Do we know anything about the mental history of David Evans?
I do not. Nothing that I've heard up to this point.
Sheriff, can you talk about what interactions your office may have had with him or this incident?
I'm not, none that I'm familiar with. There's some incident that happened here in Harford County some time ago, but the investigators are doing everything they can to get the details around that. And what they have found so far, I'm not familiar with anything that they have found so far to be specific to answer the question.
And was the warrant that you would have known he was going to be apprehended for, that was the one from Florida from October? Or is this
I would strongly suspect that if he didn't know both papers were out there, that he knew that he was wanted in Florida, and that's more than likely. And again, the investigation has to weed that out, but I certainly think that's probably why he came from Florida up to Maryland.
Sheriff, just a point of clarification. We had a witness tell us yesterday that she thought she saw the suspect grab the deputy's gun, but he had his own gun. I want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yes, everything that we have up to this point indicates that Deputy Pat Daly never unholstered, never had a chance to respond, and that it was the same gun that was used to shoot Deputy Longston that he used against Deputy Daly.
And Sheriff, can you say what type of gun this was?
At this point, I'm not sure as far as caliber. No, it's a silver semi-automatic handgun. I would like to say I heard from the governor just before coming down here, and he's offered all the support in the world. And again, to the state police credit and our state partners, they were here because we needed them. All credit to the great governor that we have of this state, but they were here when we needed them right away. So I appreciate the governor's call of condolence and support. Again, the county exec has been with us, and our allied partners and our partners in the fire service. We've all lost some friends. Anything?
Also, on behalf of Harford County, we do want to thank the governor. The mayor reached out to me, and all the other county executives that I'm partnered with throughout the state have extended their condolences and offers to assist us in the coming days. Listen, we are going to tribute these fallen heroes for Harford County, and this is a new occurrence for us. I think, you know, being a native Harford County, we've lost a little bit of innocence yesterday, as this has never occurred before. But as usual, the county will pull together, and we're going to rise up and salute these heroes and move forward as we go down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.